Good afternoon. My name is Niko House, host of the political radio show Mikasa Tsukasa. And once again, this is my son who decides to jump into videos while I'm in the middle of filming, but it's cool. Whatever. You can just chill there. Right, Asher? But I urge you all to donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign, where we strive to empower independent journalists with $1 for every subscriber or every follower that they have, to show the establishment that we do not need their lies anymore. We're not going to put up with their brainwashing techniques and propaganda. That somebody's going to bring the truth, and if that person or that group does bring that truth, then we will support them instead. So I wanted to talk to you all today about the Medicare for All bill that got utterly destroyed by the Speaker of the House in California, Speaker Randon. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this. Obviously, most people would like healthcare, right? We can all agree on that. And the idea was to essentially have single payer in California. Now, there's a lot of issue with the fact that it was taken off the table. So first, we'll start with the fact that David, I believe his name is David Byron or David Dayen. Sorry, I'm gonna put his article below. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it, but he wrote an article for the Intercept saying that he believes that the nurses union is acting impractical, and that he thinks that we're getting it all wrong, and that financial issues are a huge problem, and going over, kind of just, it's a weird article because the guy seems to be progressive, and I respect it as another perspective, but I think that he actually has it wrong because he points out the shortcomings, okay? And I would even agree that those are shortcomings to an extent. But when you have someone who unilaterally, who's taking like $100,000 from pharmaceutical in the last couple of years, right? And then you have the issue that the fact that all the opposers have taken 1.5 million in big pharma money over the last few years. So when you couple that fact with the fact that someone unilaterally decides to make that decision, despite the fact that most of the state and most of the House and obviously the Senate pushed it through, wanted that bill to be passed, then you need to figure out a way to do it democratically, because that's not what I would call democratically. When you push it back to the committees for it to sit and be heard on until further notice, knowing that we are days within the time period where we won't be able to do anything about it, it makes us think that you don't want single payer. So when you make a claim like, oh, there are major financial loopholes in California constitutional loopholes that may prevent us from doing this, it makes us think that you have something that you don't want being passed, because people would probably be okay with you saying, hey, this is incomplete. We need to figure out the financing. We need to figure out what we're going to do about the education situation. And I'll go into detail about that in a second. And we need to figure out if we need to make an amendment to get this done. But when you pass a bill to get something done, you can easily start amending. You can go, I mean, obviously the bill has to, follow the constitutional guidelines. And so then you can start amending the Constitution, but at least have it discussed. Because it said we can't discuss it. And once you shut down that conversation, that is when people start hearing special interests. And the person who wrote this article said that instead of raising the millions of dollars that are necessary to battle the special interests there, and I'm like, why should we shouldn't have to raise millions of dollars necessary to fight special interests when everyone agrees that this is the path that we need to be taking. Now, here's the issue with that. It's not like, and I'm assuming this is what was discussed when the bill was written, but it's not like the financial issue would be actually hard to overcome. And if it was discussed, this could have easily been surmised. The Medicare and Medi-Cal, for those of you who don't know, that's like a kind of like a Medicaid for California. But Medicare and Medi-Cal make up for it would be a $400 billion necessity. Medicare and Medi-Cal make up for about 300 billion of that. They will only need to come up with 100 million of that. Now, the constitutional obstacle would be that the Constitution of California says that 40% of their budget must go to education. So they would just have to reallocate the amount of money, or the percentage of money that will go towards education to ensure that people, have health care, which I don't think people would consider a horrible trade-off, and initially there would be about a 2% tax increase, but it would only be actually on sales tax. So it wouldn't even be a 2% income tax increase. So that's all it would take to get this off the ground. But instead of pursuing that and saying this is what we need to change, entertain the conversation, even having his people come out and say, well, this is what we need to address beforehand, not saying, oh, it's dead because of finance. So now we have to go through this process all again. And ironically enough, once again, it's right before 2018. So he's not saying he's not killing it. He's just, we're not hearing about it indefinitely, which is pretty much killing it. So what he has done, I don't agree with the Intercept article. What he has done is wrong. It shows that corporate interests and special interests are still running our healthcare industry, and people are dying because of it. Healthcare is already expensive, so it's expensive everywhere else in the country, so imagine how expensive it is in California. We don't need Medicare, we don't need Medicaid, we don't need Medi-Cal if single payer passes. And if it's an issue, if it's a structural issue or an issue that can easily be dealt with by a few policy experts, let it happen and then pass it like everybody wanted to happen. I think that's not too much to ask. So I'll post the Intercept article below. Leave your comments, your thoughts, and let me know what you think. Like I said, please donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign. And let's see if we can have $1 for every single subscriber that the independent journalists listed below have. Thank you very much for watching, and always remember, find your balance.